What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the Biker Channel, B1. Today, we're on the 19th episode of BK Bar, and I cannot believe that it's been 19 episodes already. I don't know how to do math very well. Just a minute ago, I said that it's been 6 months. Apparently, it's not been 6 months. 19 episodes doesn't make 6 months. So, nonetheless, just want to take a moment here to let everybody kind of trickle in, and then also want to talk to you guys about A, thank you a lot for being here. B, if you like the content and you want to see more of it, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to do the biker infomercial right now. Hit the subscribe button. If you like what you're listening to, hit the thumbs up. That's the way it makes me feel good about what I'm doing and makes me want to keep doing it. And someday it'll pay like a tenth of the bills. So, and until then, just keep hitting the button. That'd be great. Outside of that, if you want to pick up some swag like a biker t-shirt or biker hat, you can stop by shop.biker.com. So shop.biker, B1KER.com, as well as if you really want to help pay more than a tenth of the bills, you could go to Patreon, which is at patreon.biker.com. And that will be an easy way to support me and the channel. And what I do on there is have different tiers. You could either join the $1 a month club, get access to coupons and me ranting here and there, and maybe possible or extra content. Sometimes I'll make some extra videos or things of that nature. And then there's also a $5 a month tier where you can get some early access videos as well as longer cut videos and a sticker pack. So I stopped selling stickers on shop.biker.com recently, and I decided that if you want stickers, join the Patreon. And if you just want the stickers, join the Patreon. And if you decide that after $5 or $10, you're like, that's cool. That's all I wanted to pay for was the stickers. Then drop the Patreon. It's that simple. Maybe you'll get some content that you like and stick around. Either way, man, I'm stoked that you guys are all here hanging out with me today. And even more than that, it's pretty stoked that Aaron, I believe the founder of PNW Components, he can correct me if I'm wrong here in a second. Aaron, you want to say hello and what's up with PNW Components?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Robert, thanks for having me, man. I'm stoked. And, I want to do a quick apology to Gene over at RGMTB. When we did our podcast, I was totally off the back and didn't know I was on camera. So I was like in the dark with like this weird setup with no camera, but we actually have lights today. So this is a big day, guys.
There we go.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So my name's Aaron, and my wife, Emily, and I founded PNW Components about 3 years ago. Based here in Seattle. We make more and more components by the day, but really our base was getting started with dropper posts. Got that rolling. We have a whole line of pretty cool droppers. Now we have dropper remotes. We're getting into pedals. We're getting into we have handlebars. We're getting more bars lined up. So yeah, really trying to get a full swath of parts. Anything that's like component related, we're going for it. You
said you and your wife. So how did that come about?
Yeah.
You're out mountain biking on the trail one day, finally saw another woman on the trail, was like, grabbed her up and like, hey, let's start a business.
Like, we should do business. Sort of. So no, Emily's rad. So Emily does all of our marketing, all of our design, photos, for the most part. We contract out to some photographers too, but yeah, I mean, we knew each other, we were together much longer than when PNW started, but I don't know, we were both working in the bike industry, and I was doing product development, product management. She was on the marketing side at Marin.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we ended up moving to Seattle, just some family health issues. I had to leave Marin just because I wasn't able to travel anymore, but she was able to stay on remotely for a few years, which was great. So I don't know, we got to chatting and saw a huge hole in the market for what we felt was a really cool brand that people would be, happy about having, right? So like good prices, good quality. We can get into this more later, but really, we just wanted to get together, do something cool, and stay in the industry we loved, and be able to.
What were you doing at Marin?
So at Marin, I was the mountain bike product manager for a short period of time. Like I said, we had a pretty gnarly health thing up here with someone in the family, so we had to move up here to help take care of them. And I was traveling constantly, like gone 30-40% of the year. So that didn't really work out for what our new reality became.
So did you go to school? What would you go to school for then?
I got a business degree, but I was racing by. I mean, I worked in shops, summers since I was 17 years old. Worked in shops throughout college. Was racing, doing the Norba circuit and all that. So
you're just a regular dude, like riding bikes a lot. Worked at shops, went to college for business, and next thing you know, how do you get from like a business degree to working in the industry like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few steps in between. So first job I got out of school was with a windmill company of all things, and residential windmills. So it started out as like customer service, and then it was a small company, so that kind of gravitated into working on like, oh well, here's the issues with the product. Engineers, here's what I think, this is what customers are asking for. How do we develop that? So that's kind of how I got my role into product development. And then, background working on bikes, like you get pretty mechanical very quickly if you're doing your own bike maintenance or working on other people's bikes. So, so I was at the windmill company in Reno for about 4 years, 3-4 years, something like that. And then decided I wanted to move back home to California, and connected with a friend of a friend who worked at Specialized and was able to interview there and got into a product development role there. Pretty crazy.
Right?
It's crazy. It really is. Because what's funny is I had applied for that job, didn't get a call back. And then once I was able to get connected with the person actually hiring for it, I was able to talk to him and get an interview and all that. So, I mean, it was a pretty gnarly interview process. It took a few months, but yeah, it worked out. So, I mean, that was huge.
Specialized is like quite the machine. I mean, they're like, I guess it would be arguably they're like the Microsoft of the bike industry. They're the
I mean, they're doing pretty cool stuff at large scale. I mean, that's really hard to do. And they're, from a marketing standpoint, I mean, they're a total powerhouse. I mean, we've all heard of them, and they make good stuff. So, I mean, that was great. That was really kind of the kickstart into the industry, and still some of my best friends either work there still or did work there. So it's pretty cool. It's cool.
Yeah, people like to poop on them, because they're the biggest company or whatever. And I always say to people, like, there's one thing that's true about this company is you don't get to be the biggest player if you don't do good shit. You know what I mean? Like, if your product sucks, you can't be the biggest. So, I mean, there's obviously a reason that they're selling more bikes. It's not just because their marketing team's like on point, right?
It's a whole thing. Like, what got me into the brand was I was working for a shop that sold, Santa Cruz, Trek, Specialized, Cannondale, everything. But I had a Specialized. This was decades ago, but I had cracked the frame. I was using like a cross country bike as a dirt jump bike, so you know how it was back then. Right. Cracked the frame, and other brands had turned me down of like, hey, well, that's not in our warranty. Like, you can't do that. So you're screwed. And I'm a kid. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not riding for a long time. But with Specialized, they took care of me. They got me a new frame. I broke it again. They got me another frame. So then I was kind of in on that standpoint. I mean, good customer service gives a good feeling about things. So that was a good lesson to learn about taking care of people. But that's really what got me super excited about them at a very early on, basically. So, but yeah, they're gnarly, man. They definitely do a lot of volume. They do some really cool, innovative stuff. And yeah, I know there's a lot of static out there of people saying things. So that's between you all and them. But I had a good experience there.
So then you end up leaving there, and somehow you make your way over to Marin, which is like a much smaller company, at least. They're definitely not making the mark on the market that they used to.
Sure. Yeah, that one's interesting. We had 5 hours we could get into that. So basically, what happened with Marin is they changed hands. There was the old team that got them off the ground up until, I don't know the exact years, but probably around 2012 or 2013, something like that. So they got bought, and quite a few people kind of shifted roles there. And so they were looking for someone to come in and do the mountain bikes. And a good buddy of mine, Aaron, who I knew from Specialized, he came in and was head of all of their like pavement bikes, gravel bikes. He does really cool shit if you guys want to check those out. So got to talking with him and heard there was a role, and he connected me with the CEO, Matt V is his name. Really good dude. And hit it off with him, kind of explained what my skills were, and that basically, yeah, one thing led to another and ended up working there full time. So that was cool. That was super cool team.
That's awesome. The bike industry is actually like a lot smaller than one would think.
Oh, dude, it is. So I always say it's just super incestuous. Like so-and-so's here, you then go to Sea Otter, and then you're like, oh, what's up? And then they're working for another company, and everyone's kind of shifting around. It's cool in that way, but it's also like, you really got to be careful not to burn any bridges, because you're going to end up with that person again. So it's interesting that way. I know there's other industries like that, but it seems pretty unique where it's like everybody knows each other, which is cool.
Yeah,
like,
definitely noticed that, especially being from the perspective that I'm in, kind of coming in and trying to work with different companies, and I obviously don't have the pillar of fitness look to me. So like when I come up and I'm like, hey man, I love riding bikes. You want to like do something with me? They're like, yeah, who's this fat dude? What the fuck?
No, it's
bikes, man, But then they see me like talking with some other company that I've done something with, and they're like, oh, maybe that guy's not full of shit, He just because everybody with a camera now got a YouTube channel, right? So
no, totally. And at the end of the day, like especially with how good bikes ride now, like the fitness thing is less of a big deal anymore. Like as long as you can shred downhill and have fun, who cares? I mean, that's
right. Yeah. And I've had times when I've been in more shape and less shape, and it's to me, I'm going with whatever happens. I know I like riding bikes whether I'm in shape or not. Like I have fun either way. You know what I mean? So
that's the bottom line, dude. I mean, that's the cool thing about this industry is, like, sure, it's big. There are some pretty big businesses. I mean, there's quite a few brands doing over $1 billion in sales. I mean, that's not just a niche. But at the end of the day, like we're designing products to go have fun with. Like we're not making medical devices or anything like that or whatever it may be. But still, that part is cool, and it kind of helps when I start to kind of get a little wigged out on certain things. I got to remind myself, like, okay, we're creating things to have fun, so we got to keep it, lighthearted. You know what I mean? So
how does this idea for starting this component company, is it just like you and the lady are riding bikes together and you start spitballing this like over like burritos after a ride, and next thing you know, you're like, because that's a big commitment to like, know what, I'm gonna fucking quit my job and start this business. Like, man,
it was I'd like to say it was way more planned than that, but really it just kind of incrementally happened. Like basically we were both going through a horrible time, just given the family events going on, and we really needed a distraction. So it was like, how can we create like our own little like utopia, right? Like our own little happiness to distract us from what's going on. So we got to chatting. We're like, man, we don't see a brand that, things have changed now, but back, 4 or 5 years ago, like we didn't see a brand that really was focused on high quality products, good prices, and then also branding, like the look and feel of the brand and the photos and the way that we involve our customers in our marketing and all that. We didn't really see a brand that did that. And we're like, well, this is odd, like, I wonder if we could do it better.
I mean, like, when you're saying 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was like 1 or 2 companies that were doing a dropper, and they were just like super expensive. And then there was like these ones that were like $100 that nobody knew who they were by or where they were from. And so that would be like, you wouldn't want to pull a trigger on it because you're like, man, that's just too cheap. And everybody on Amazon or whatever is like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And you're like, I don't fucking believe that, man.
Like fake review. Yeah, no, it's
like fake news, whatever the hell, And
yeah, no, totally. Yeah. So, I mean, it was all of that came into play, right? It was like, well, kind of look around, and really what it came down to is like, Emily's design skills are rad. Like she's very good at what she does. She's super tied in with how brands outside the bike industry are doing things, which we tend to have blinders sometimes in the industry. I'm not going to say that for everyone, but just from what I was experiencing at some places, it was more like, well, what's this other brand doing? And can we incrementally change that rather than like look outside of that and see what's working, right? In terms of like how to communicate product details to a customer, how to get our name out there quickly, because that's always a challenge because there's a million brands doing this. So go ahead.
Like the whole YouTube thing. I mean, it is definitely a market that is well saturated by other types of business, like camera equipment or toys and stuff of that nature. And a lot of these bike companies, man, they're just like, yeah, I don't see the value there. Sure. But the value is like probably stronger than it is in a lot of other ways that you can market, you know?
Well, it is, because it gives you, I mean, there's, there's a million reasons. It helps kind of give a behind the scenes. It also, that's where people are looking for information, right? So why fight that? That's where people are looking. I mean, kind of going back to it. So, Em and I had been talking about this, kind of threw around some ideas. And really what it came down to is, through the process of speccing bikes, at Specialized, I was responsible for like 450,000 bikes produced every year. So, I mean, that's a large volume with a lot of these factories. So I had pretty decent relationships with them. Going into Marin, same thing, it's not volume that size, but you're still meeting with the same factories. So
right.
It was kind of like, I know I can get really, really good stuff made in the best factories in the world. And because of my personal relationship, I know they'll talk to me, because
they already know you.
Yeah, if I was some random dude, I think it would be a lot harder. I don't know how that would go, to be honest. So that
I would imagine you got to go through a lot more like rigmarole to kind of even get to a point to be able to have a meeting with somebody, or you're going to have to fail with a bunch of other like not so good companies, building your stuff until you can finally get to them. Like, so definitely your past experience kind of set you up to
it kind of leapfrogged us, like we knew what pricing we could get for large volume. So not to say we have that exact same pricing now, just because it is, we have much smaller volume, right. But it still is a starting point of like, well, I know what this component should cost. Can we get there? And I think if you just came off the street, you wouldn't really necessarily know how that works. And that's to our advantage, right? Because we're getting near OEM pricing, and then we pass it on to customers, which is why we have, in my opinion, very good quality and very reasonable prices, I think. So that kind of all came together.
Out. Was it like a side gig kind of thing? Like
total side gig, dude. Yeah, we were just, I'd wake up at 5 a.m, work till 8, go to work, and then come home, have a little snack, and then work till 11 at night, and then all weekend, full time weekend. So I mean, it was gnarly. No joke about that. But it kept me motivated for some reason. Like I tend to, I'm very ADD, right? So I'm like, if I'm not totally in on something, it's very easy for me to give up on it. But with this, it totally had me. Yeah. We started selling things and getting feedback from customers that they liked what we were doing. It was like, oh man, this is insane. So we did it part-time for about 1.5 years, and then jumped all in. And so we've been doing it full-time now for 1.5 years. So yeah, we've been around 3 years. As of November, so just a few weeks ago.
I can totally relate with you on the being all in. I always say I have an all or nothing personality. Mm-hmm. Like I am 150% charging on something, or I'm not fucking paying attention to it at all.
No, dude. I mean, with riding especially, like you can't get good at biking unless you're all in. Like if you just kind of dabble in it, you're gonna peak out. But if you want to keep getting better, you really have to obsess. It's weird because I think we think of obsession as kind of like not so good, but with biking, it's total obsession, right? And business too. Like I've had to make it a conscious decision to get out of the house and go exercise more, because like I'm just like glued to what we're doing. It's exciting. Like we're growing.
Dude, that's awesome. That's like having passion and having something that you can chase after in life like that. Yeah. I think it's so fucking valuable, man. It'll change the way that your life is, I've always chased whatever it is that I'm interested in. And I feel like that's always kept me happy. Like when I was younger, I wanted to be in music, and I went to school for studio recording, and like I was in a band and whatever, Yeah. And then at one point it was like, okay, that's not my thing anymore. And now it was like, okay, I got into the tech industry, and I was like, that's all I wanted to do, and then somewhere along the line, it was like, hey, this freaking YouTube thing came up, and that's like, now that's all I think about, it's like, but it's fun to have something that drives you that way, man. At least for me, maybe there's other people out there that are content in a much different way. Yeah. And sometimes I look at them and wish I had that, but most of the time I'm happy with just freaking running full speed at things, you know?
No, I think, dude, it's important because, and everyone's in a different situation. Like I talk to friends of mine, they're like, I don't know how you do what you're doing because it's so risky. Like things, you know, we're now placing pretty big bets at this point with our own money that we've incrementally begun to,
Right.
you know, like we don't pay ourselves. Like any money that comes in goes to growth because we're growing so quickly. Like any bit of profit that we get, oh, well, that means we have to place more orders. And so that's where that money goes. So it's not like we don't have a ton of extra money, but, and we're not saving, you know, in our retirement fund that I'd have if I worked at a big company or whatever it may be. But, I feel that we're moving in the right direction. And because we're in a unique situation, like we don't have kids. If that were a factor and I needed to worry about health insurance and things like that, like probably wouldn't be doing this, to be honest. So it's, I think just kind of all these different factors aligned well. And like I was saying, we just kind of were like, well, fuck it, let's try it and see what happens. And
I mean,
try to find a job, right? So yeah, it was wild and it's scary. It's still makes me nervous, but it seems things are going in the right direction, which is really
Do you ever listen to podcasts?
Yeah.
So there's a podcast called How I Made This.
I was listening to that today, How I Built This. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And that, you know, there's a very common theme with a lot of those guys, you know, starting when they're younger, or ladies as well, you know, and just when you have that time and you have that, you know, that ability. There was like a really catchy phrase that they gave to it on one of the episodes. And I thought it was like really good, and go figure, I can't fucking remember what it was, but basically, you know, being that young and having, you know, that energy and not having all those commitments, it really plays well into you really being able to bleed into something, you know, or give it everything that you have.
It does. And, you know, I'm all about encouraging anyone I know to go and try to do, you know, start with a side hustle, right? Like think of something that you think there's some sort of market for, whether it's a service, like maybe you know how to, I don't know, put listings on eBay and Amazon. Like that's very valuable. There's a lot of people who don't. And you can do that in the morning or at lunch break or whatever it may be. And that could grow into something, but that's how we did it. I'm not like a massive risk taker. This wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to recklessly try this out. Like we got to a point where sales were coming in steady enough where I had confidence that we both should go ahead and try this out. And, you know, obviously Emily made her own decision with that too. So kind of worked out well, but it's crazy, man. And it doesn't seem that there's any like set rule on how any of this works. You hear a lot of stuff on that. Like that show's a really good one because everyone has a similar story, but how they came about it is totally different.
Right.
Kind of cool. And I listened to it.
Super fun to listen to. I think it's like really, like it's motivational to listen to, you know?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. You're like, damn, and for them, you know, there's no way we're going to get any, you know, I was listening to the one for, Glossier or whatever, cosmetics. And I'm listening to her story and they're worth like $433 million now. So I'm like, okay, that's not the scale we're talking about for us, but the story was still really similar, which is cool. So just kind of luck with like people you connect with or opportunities that happen or good timing in the market or whatever, like that part all remains the same. So that was cool. Really cool to hear. So anyway.
Yeah, I know those are really fun stories. So, you guys decide to go full time, right? And you're still just like one product line, like at that point, right? You're just droppers. That's it.
Dude, first thought was, okay. So I guess let's back up a little bit. So when I was at Specialized, we had the command post. And to put that onto a bike, it's pretty expensive. So the bikes that I was focused on were all of our dirt jump stuff, which, you know, droppers don't apply there. But then also all of the mountain bikes that were under like $2,000, hardtails, right? So at that time, no one was really putting droppers on those, but I thought, hey, I love droppers. I think this is the best invention that's happened to bikes in recent history. So I want one, but I can't afford the command post. That would make the bike too expensive. So we started working with our team over in Taiwan. And I basically started a low-cost dropper project. And then we connected with a factory, and they're who I'm working with today. So I had started working with them in very early 2012. So my relationship with them, specifically with designing droppers, started a long time ago. So that part was cool. So I knew what they had, and I knew of some things I wanted to do to basically change them up. and then create our own brand around it. So yeah, our first dropper was an externally routed dropper called the Rainier, and this is where the cable actually entered in at the head of the saddle. So that's where we started, man. And that was like, let's get these up online. Let's see what happens. So, you know, it was a very slow start, to be honest. But that's how it goes. We were trying to figure out, like, how do we get the message out there? So started connecting with different media contacts that I had. I knew that in my mind, people are either going to ask people in a shop what product they should buy, or they're going to go on Google and start researching it, right? Like they want to know, what are other people saying about products? Like, I can say all day long we have great stuff, but that has no weight at all, because obviously I'm biased. So I knew that real customer reviews were our key, and you know, we needed to have confidence in our product for someone to say something good about it, but also it needed to be online. So that was a huge one. So that's kind of how we focused, was how do we get product into people's hands, start getting some reviews, get it into, you know, MTBR was our very first review, Francis Sebadoh there. So that started to kind of get things going. And then I was able to connect with some others. We started expanding into more droppers. We got internally routed stuff, 27.2 droppers. So that's kind of that's awesome. Kind of how we incrementally started to grow. It was crazy. It's really crazy.
Because I know whenever I was my old bike, I had this Cannondale Prophet for like 10 years. And to get a 27.2 dropper, it was like KS Lev or like those no names. And I'll be dead honest with you, that KS Lev that I had was freaking awful. And it didn't work very well, or not very consistent. And so knowing that there's a good product like yours out there, that's awesome for a lot of people that are in that position where they have an older bike with that smaller seat tube size, and being able to still get a dropper and update their bike. Because I'm with you when you said a minute ago, like, this is a great thing. I watched a video earlier today. It was MTB Savant. He was doing a test ride on Santa Cruz Blur, I believe, and it didn't have a dropper on it. And it was just, I just thinking to myself as I was like, man, that would just suck to ride without one now.
Dude, it's crazy. Yeah, it happened. It happened quick how fast it was. Yeah, I think, I'm sure someone out there can correct me on this. The first dropper I remember was the KS. I remember seeing that in, I think BTI had them. This was, I don't know, 2008 or 9, something like that. And I was like, what the hell is this? This is ridiculous. I don't need it. And then a buddy of mine got one, and yeah, anyway, ever since then, it just completely hooked me. I think that they still are like.
I totally held out. I was one of those guys that talked all kinds of shit, man. I was like, dude,
quick release.
I was like, dude, I've been riding bikes since the 90s, man. We didn't need a fucking dropper, dude. You just put your seat down. If you put your seat down, and then you put it up when you're climbing, like everybody else does. You know, you don't need to spend $400 or whatever the hell it was at the time. You know, and then I with that profit, I would. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, I wonder if I'd like an extra large frame instead. So I'd go buy one and on Craigslist, and then just like take all the parts off of it, put it on my frame, sell my frame, and then, you know, try this bike for a while, right? And then I'd powder coat it, and then I'd be like, oh, I don't want this one anymore. I want to try another one, you know. And one of the ones that I bought it just because it had a carbon fiber lefty on it, and I wanted that lefty, that carbon fiber lefty. So. And when I got it, the dude had a dropper on it, and I was like, "Well, I mean, that's cool."
It came with it.
Yeah, I'll keep that, you know, and I'll take the fork off and put all the rest of my parts on the other one and sell it again, you know. And that was like it changed my perspective 100%. You know, actually using one where it was like, and that thing only had like 100 mils drop or something like that, you know, like it was just like. It just like rocked my world. I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I remember thinking, like, when I pushed that button, like I thought the seat like disappeared, you know. And now I have 150 millimeters up until last night. I actually installed your Bachelor. And even with that, you know, it's just like I can't wait to get out actually and ride on that thing. But that being said, or my point was, with that 150 millimeters, I still would like hit that button and be like, where this thing's not getting low enough. Like I wanted to like I want to push that button and that thing like folds up like Inspector fucking Gadget and just sucks right into the fucking seat tube and it's just gone. You know?
No, totally, dude. Yeah, and that's now where it's at. It's like, well, 170 is not enough. We want 200, and yeah, I totally agree. It's funny how quick that changed because yeah, I was in the same boat. I was like, I can just use my quick release. That's how I've always done it. Blah blah blah. And then I started noticing like on the meandering trails, I'm like, oh well, I can drop this. It's kind of nice. I don't have to worry about having the seat between my legs or whatever. And then next thing you know, you're like, how the hell did I do this?
I think the thing that was the weirdest for me was, you know, when you rode with the regular seat, like me and most of my friends all would agree on this, that you would kind of like pinch your seat with the inner thigh in certain positions. And that's kind of like part of how you felt connected with the bike. Yeah. And whenever you would use that dropper and that wasn't there, it kind of made you feel like a little like off at first.
It was weird. The bike kind of would start to wobble, right? You're like, what is going on here? But yeah, I mean, now that you have gotten used to it, you can like completely lean the bike over. I mean, there's so much more to do. It's crazy.
Yeah, now it's like you're irritated if the seat touches you at all. You know, you're like, what the hell is going on here? You know, like
what are you doing here?
Right. You know, it's just crazy like how different that is. But I hands down, like if that's a must. There's not like an option to not have a dropper for me anymore. Like I got on my my cross bike, which I don't ride a whole lot, and I had rode it on some dirt, and I went to hit my dropper button and it wasn't there because I don't have one on that bike. And I just remember thinking, this is freaking horrible. Why do I not have a dropper on this thing?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody asked in the comments here though, and I thought it was a really good question, was how do you guys do the engineering? Do you have like something that you kind of learned along the way for the engineering, or you kind of like tell them like at the factory, like this is kind of what I'm thinking, or they just do it all? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, it's a little bit of all that. So so how it works basically is these larger factories, they have their in-house engineering team. So basically, ideally, how it works is you start with, like, we have our own designer and engineer. So basically we'll, depending on what the project is, start with like, here's what we're looking at. Here are some specs. Here's a design. And then you throw that over to the production side. And then they have engineers that are very skilled and knowledgeable in manufacturing things, right? Because a big issue that we've all run into is there's a big difference between like a 3D drawing that looks great and blah, 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 and then getting that made. So there's a big disconnect there. And every factory is a little bit different with how they're like tuning their machinery, what their processes are or whatever. So an issue is if you are very rigid with your design and you're like, well, this is exactly what I want produced, the factory either may just not want to work with you because they'll be like, well, no, we're not doing that way. Or you'll run into issues later down the line because there could be something that they could have helped you with that very easily could have been fixed, and you would never know that unless you ask. So it's a collaboration. Like we start with our team and then we push it over there, and then we make lots of iterations with their team based on what's realistic, like what's actually going to be able to get manufactured. So in the case of
essentially all the inside, like how they work, right, is pretty much like the same from one company to the next, right? Because that's not like a copyright or like trademark kind of thing. Or do you have to design like a different way of doing it, like than say somebody else? Yeah.
So it depends. So if I were a gigantic brand that had multi-million-dollar budget, you can go out and start patenting things and designing a very unique design that's just that no one else can ever touch, like no components at all. Given our size, we try to leverage pieces here and there that a factory may have already, right? So that helps us in a big way, because otherwise I'm going to drop many hundreds of thousands of dollars, to be honest, to create something, and then I'm left with really nothing. So that's what most brands our size are doing. Well, all brands our size are doing for this type of thing. You leverage a little bit of existing technology, you put your own specs that you want, and then kind of tie the two together with the engineering staff that the factory has too. So it's it's a nice thing. Things have changed a lot very recently too. The engineering staff at factories, that's not something that everyone has had access to up until somewhat recently, I would say. I mean, again, I'm kind of generalizing because every project's different, but that's generally how it works, and it just gives you more confidence. You know it's going to work if you're working with the factory and collaborating, basically.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell how we do it. With something
it's really interesting because just a couple of weeks ago I had a guy on the BI-KER Bar with a company called Otis, and they build these like speakers that they're not earbuds that go in your ear. They kind of attach to your helmet and shoot the sound towards your ear.
Oh, cool.
So you can still hear like all the trail sound and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he's definitely approaching it from the I don't know anything about how to do this stuff way, where like listening to some of the things that you're talking about there, I can hear where he's having to like kind of go through the trenches to get through it. And that prior relationships that you've had and the experience that you've had has really helped you out in this way.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be first. I'm definitely spoiled in that regard just because I basically leapfrogged, right? Like I was able to work in a large company like Specialized and learn from their team and how they've been doing it for decades, and the boss that I had there, Deacon, taught me a lot. Aaron Abrams taught me a ton. These guys are very, very, very skilled, veterans really in the industry. I mean, they've been doing it for many, many decades. So kind of hearing how to do things and how not to do things, kind of, it sped things up, and made us, to be honest, it made us much more efficient because we're not, I want to knock on wood here and not jinx us, but like we're not making as many mistakes as if I had just randomly walked. Like if I got into speakers, I would have no idea what to do, and I would it would be hard, it'd be super hard. But since we kind of knew how the game works in terms of manufacturing in Taiwan, at least, it's been to our advantage. That's been definitely nice. Going back to the development thing, so like our loam lever, for instance. Ground up project. We designed that thing 100%. And we're very rigid in terms of how we want it to be made.
I can tell you right now that I think that thing should just ship with all of them, dude. Like the other one, in my opinion, just like looking at it, like I didn't put it on the bike. Obviously I had the loam lever, and just the routing being backwards, with the loam lever, where it's like makes it much easier to get your cable length and everything like that. It just seems like it's a no-brainer. I think so. Any of you guys that are out there that are listening and are potentially going to buy a PNW dropper, I'll tell you right now, hands down, spend the extra money, get the other button. It's worth it.
Oh, well, yeah. So the loam. So with that, if you guys are wanting to bundle a dropper with a loam lever, we have a discount that I'm happy for you guys to use. It's called Add the Loam. ADDTHELOAM. So Add the Loam. Just use that. You'll get a discount when you're bundling stuff together. Because here's the deal, right? $199 dropper with cables and lever. Our hands are kind of tied. Like the loam lever is super expensive for us to make, so I can't include it. But we do have some new products coming here January, February timeframe that will have the loam lever coming with it, which is cool. So I'm stoked about that.
Is that little rubber piece on there? Is that something that you guys could figure out a way to like change the color of, like by whatever the person wants to put on there? You can get like I can pick like 16 or 10 different colors, because everybody's all about, at least me, I like blinging my shit out and I like matchy, and I've fallen into all that crap. And I'm like, I need to get the stem caps that are the same color as my fucking nipples or whatever the hell, and so I'm looking at the button and I'm like, okay, well, if I could change that button color, that would be the first thing I would want to do.
Yeah, no, it's something we're trying to work towards, because right now, basically what happens is, like getting them made in any color, that's no biggie at all. Right. The issue is each one has a 3M adhesive on the back side of it. So like if you were to pull that thing out, pull the little pad out, you're going to see there's a little machine cavity in there, and it has to perfectly fit in there. And if there's any contamination, meaning like any specks of dust at all, or any residue from the existing glue and all that, it's not going to stick very well. And then people aren't going to be stoked, right? They're going to be like, well, what the hell, dude? Like my pad's falling off here. So I'm trying to figure out a way where that's easier to do. Cause I totally agree, man. Like I'm all about matching my stuff. I mean, a lot of people are,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that if we can get to that point, that'd be huge for us. Like,
That's
we're going
like
to start.
icing on the cake. I mean,
Oh yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, imagine if you had a little sticker pack like this and it had like 20 different colors of pads.
Right.
Swap them out. That would be rad. So maybe someday. I'm trying, but right now, like, we will be doing some new colors. We're going to release we're going to have a ton of requests for red. Some people just want black, so we're going to have that here in somewhat soon. So kind of slowly getting there, but if you guys have colors you want, can you email me? Just let me know.
Yeah,
that'd be great to know, because I'm trying to figure out.
I think the black would be cool. I think, like, because there's so much else on your bike that's freaking black already. So I think that would be like a no-brainer color to me.
Super clean. It hides, like, if you saw, like, in the pad itself, it's got some details in there. Those will kind of disappear with the black. Like, you won't be able to see them as well. But at the end of the day, like, you got to feel good about what's on your bike. And if you want black, I don't care. That's great.
Yeah.
So we're going to have that.
So you guys have to order like a bunch of this stuff, like, and like fund kind of these big like purchases ahead of time, and then you're selling all the stock out of that.
Yeah. So like with droppers, for instance, I have to order 4 months ahead of what's going on. And normally that'd be no big deal, but like, we keep growing to where as soon as a shipment arrives, like, we're out of stock of a ton of stuff, which drives me nuts, drives me crazy that that's where we're at. But that's just part of growing, right? So so basically we'll order up, 4 months later it gets here. The levers are much faster because they're a smaller part. We're CNCing them, so there's no like lead time on ordering of raw materials or anything like that. The thing with droppers is like the tubing, right? So you get these tubings, those all have to be ordered. The stanchions are hard anodizing. It's a special process that we do. It's not unique to us, but that process, it's like a very specialty place that can do this thing called hard anodizing. They've got a huge lead time because they're doing the same process for like every dropper brand out there. So you kind of got to get in line. And since we're, if we were a giant, we'd probably get better treatment, but we're small, so we kind of got to get in where we fit in. But it's just it's a tough thing to predict what's going on, especially with the seasons, man. Like, the bike industry, or at least for us, like, sales did not slow down through the winter. And so then come springtime, like, totally out of stock. So it's like, fuck, so we're trying to figure it out.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's constant battle. I know Cali, I've done some stuff with them, and they have had a hell of a time trying to get the stock of these knee pads that they made. And it's just like, they're getting them from some place in Italy, and they're the only people that do this mold or whatever. And it's like, the Italians kind of have this like siesta kind of attitude about shit. They're like, yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it. Like, they're just like, and so it's definitely interesting to hear like similar, issues for different people,
Totally.
I wanted to ask you, so is your wife the one that's doing all the packaging?
Yeah. So she designed the packaging.
Is on point, man. I really like it a lot.
Cool. I don't know if she's watching, but I think she'll be stoked to hear that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I don't know if you're familiar with the company Stickered, but they do like decals. And Richard's a big design guy. He's the creative type, and he had came over and he picked up the handlebar that you had sent me, and he just like right away he said, "Man, this packaging is nice." It was just like, it was one of those things where it was like, and when he said it, I didn't really think about it until he said it. And then when he said it, I was like, no, it is really put together well. And it's like simple. It's simple, but it's still like gets the point across, and I think that your branding works really well. You guys got that dialed in pretty good. Dude,
thank you. I mean, we wanted it to be, we want people to feel good about what they're buying, all the way from like looking at our website, which, is constantly needing iterations, but starting with there to actually receiving the product to, obviously being stoked with the ride quality, but like, receiving a package that's just like in a bag or something like that, you're kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of lame, like this kind of whatever. So we wanted to make sure like the package looks good for the price and all that. So it's, I don't know, trying to do like full service.
It's really weird how something like that really does make a difference on your like purchase.
It does.
I think that's what like Apple like really just nailed to it, is like, put this thing, not only make a good product, but put it in a pretty box, and people are stoked about that. I know exactly what you're saying about like I have some Thompson seat tubes hanging on my wall right there from back in the pre-dropper days, and it's like, yeah, it came in a bag. You know, it's like, okay, that's it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, at least they'd get like a cloth bag, but like, man, think about, so like I had to buy a HDMI cable and I couldn't find one. It was like a weird conversion. So I had to buy it on Amazon, and it shows up and it was literally like in a Ziploc bag. And I'm like, yeah, oh, this is probably a piece of crap, you know? And it works fine. So
right.
There's nothing wrong with it, but I just immediately started off thinking like, I'm like looking for reasons why it's a piece of shit, you know? And it was just because it showed up in a kind of a ghetto looking package. So then I remembered that, and I'm like, okay, we got to do like legit packaging. So anyway, well, I'm glad to hear you're liking it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I will say that the machining on the dropper post itself, it just looks really good. It really looks good. I like the fact that when it has like the line markers on the back, so you can actually see how high it is or where it is, like that you're putting it. Like, to me, it's like things that a rider would think of is like, hey, if I take this out, I need to know where to put it back at. And I don't want to put a piece of tape on it or something like that. And even on the front side, the way that you have your logo written with the letters really tight and small, like that gives you like oh, I know I need to be in the middle of the O. That's, you know what I mean? Where it's you know, so I really like, I felt like that like made a difference to me, as well as like just that little bit of machining that's on the, I guess the cap, you would say, right below the part that goes up and down.
Yeah,
like,
we call that
looks really cool. You know, it's just like a little kind of attention to detail kind of thing.
Totally. I mean, that's you know, the design we came up with, but man, the quality though, I mean, our factory's awesome. They are the best at it. It was we looked at quite a few, and like I said, I had a relationship with these guys. I knew what they could do, but yeah, we toured their factory, I don't know, September, October, something like that. It's incredible. Like you could eat off the floor. They're so dialed. So dialed. It's you think of, or at least I did, I don't know about you guys, but like when I was thinking of like, oh, well, what does mass production look like? I was thinking like tons of robots and all this crazy shit happening and sparks flying everywhere. That's not how it is. Like there is clearly obviously machining, but like this stuff is done by hand. It's and it's by people that are like very proud of their work. Like this isn't just like, oh, get in, get out. Like they're really excited to show you what they've been working on. And if you have suggestions, they're very open to hearing it. So that is huge. So
what country is it that the factory's in?
Yeah. So we only do stuff in Taiwan. Taiwan over the decades, you know, we get a lot of questions of a lot of people assume that we're made in the US. I priced it out. And our product would end up being 2 to 2.5 times more in price, which that doesn't mean alone why we shouldn't do it. But really our story was we wanted to get as many people riding bikes as possible and to have a really expensive product that immediately alienates a ton of people. Like we really want, like we're still getting a ton of first time dropper users. That's awesome. Like I'm stoked on that. I get really happy about that. So if our product was $500, this is not going to happen.
That's a lot of money, man. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like if your bike didn't come with a dropper, it's an expensive piece to go out and get, you know? And if you haven't ridden with one, it's really easy to have that perspective of I don't fucking need it. You know what I mean? So that's definitely I think that's awesome that you're still getting people that are converting. I want to go shake everybody that doesn't have a freaking dropper post though, because I'm telling you, like I was once like you, dude. Like
I've seen the light.
Come over here, man. You know?
No, totally. It's you know, it's crazy. I mean, and there's droppers being made in China. There's droppers being made, you know, Southeast Asia, things like this. So we've chosen Taiwan for a lot of reasons. The quality there is top notch, especially with this factory that we're in. They're dialed. Like I have no complaints with them. So that's big, and that's become basically like the hub for high end manufacturing of bikes. Like they own that space, and that's because of US, European brands basically handing that to them over the years. And they've gotten really good at it. So, I mean, I was having trouble saying no to doing things there. So going to another place outside of Taiwan, that I'm not so interested in at this point. It's just, it makes things way more challenging.
There's all these like companies that build like knockoff stuff over there that'll look exactly like what the other brands or like the bigger brands are producing? Like, do you have fear of that, or like how do you combat that? Or
we're small, man. No one cares about us. So if we were bigger, oh hell yeah. I mean, you see knockoff stuff all day long. So I mean that. Once we get there, I need to view it as a form of flattery, right? Like, oh wow, being copied means that they see value in us and blah blah blah. But like, we're so small, I don't think anyone cares. So that's true for a lot of brands our size. Like, there's a whole kind of this middle swath of brands that are out there. But it's like, I'm worried about the lum lever. So we'll see when a knockoff of that pops up. Like, I mean, it's going to happen at some point. So that's kind of that's the modern world, right? So it's kind of this race of continually making new products so that the knockoff version doesn't exceed your sales. And I mean, it's like electronics, right? It's like
the other end of it though too is like, what your company is and your brand recognition, and people will be like, hey, yeah, I can buy the knockoff one, but this one here is better because these guys are going to take care of me, where those guys are going to tell me to catch a rabbit whenever it stops working, No,
I mean, that is 100% correct. There's, I mean, we give you a 3-year warranty. I personally respond to every single customer service email. I do this 7 days a week, every single day, all day long. I'm doing customer service if people have questions about sizing or whatever it may be. So that you're not going to get with a knockoff.
Yeah.
Like, if they have an issue, they're just not going to respond, or they're going to, make it difficult, or, oh, you have to send it back to China to have service, and that's going to cost you hundreds of dollars. And may as well. And it's funny because I've had questions about that, right? Of like, can you service this random product I have? And I'm like, sorry, man, I can't get involved with that. And we know what's actually happened a few times. It's really weird. And I don't want anyone to like become, I'll just say it. So one thing that really squirrely, sketchy people on Amazon can do is you can buy a product, because basically how Amazon manages returns is they just weigh the box, and if it's somewhat close to whatever it shipped out at, boom, put it back on the shelf.
Yeah.
So what people will do is they'll just put some random ass product in there. So we've gotten some weird dropper post returned back to us. Like, I have no idea what they are. Like, brands I've never, well, there's no brand. It's just a blank post, but I'm like, what the hell? So they're definitely out there. And so what people are doing is, they'll have this knockoff, they'll buy ours, and then they'll put the knockoff back in, then they get a full refund. So that's highly illegal. I do not want you guys doing that, but we do see what's out there. So I mean, there are knockoffs, dude. It's weird. It's kind of surreal.
I know you've worked with him in the past as well. He bought a GoPro, and it literally had like somebody printed the picture of what the GoPro looked like and put that in the plastic, like, and then fill the box up with, I don't know, pennies or something like that. Yep. And he ended up getting it back. Like, so I guess they returned it and said it was unopened and maybe made it look like it was. And then he had bought it and somehow ended up with it. And it was like, I felt really bad for him, because I was like, man, like, how is he going to prove to Amazon, like,
that wasn't him?
The person that, like,
because what happens is, and I can explain it in a bit, but like, what happens is, let's say you're selling an iPhone. Well, I don't know if you can sell those on Amazon, but anyway, let's say you're selling an iPhone on Amazon. They will lump any product that has this UPC code, whatever it is, like, they'll just lump them together. So you don't know whose inventory is whose. So what people were doing for a while is they would get an iPhone, take the real one out, and then they would just fill in the little cavity with clay, so it weighed the same thing, return it. Amazon customer support's like, oh, it's unopened, and then they'd send it to someone else, and they have a clay iPhone. So it's crazy. It's wild how that can happen, and it's sad, man. It's so sketchy. It's like, come on. But
at the end of the day, man, there's always somebody out there that wants to freaking get up for free or whatever. And I think I think that's why things like this are important, man. Like if you're freaking burning that company for a dropper, like, you're taking food off this dude's plate, man. It's just him and his wife and an engineer, or you know what I mean? Like,
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, if only you guys knew how big this operation was. Like, this is it's unfortunate, man, because I am paying for that out of my pocket, but
I think a lot of times people just assume they're like, oh, that's a big company. Yeah, like
Yeah.
they got it written into their budget that they can have like a 5% loss in the year from products that are this and that, you know, and they like, you know, make that up in their own mind. And it's like for me, you know, then coming around and meeting companies and going to them and being like, dude, I would have thought this company was like freaking a football field size. And it's like, no, it's like a freaking couple of garages, and that's what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. No, it's yeah. And I think there's a Amazon especially is interesting because we get a totally different kind of like behavior out of customers that buy from Amazon than through our website direct.
Is there any perk to buying one way or the other for you guys?
No, I mean, and I'll just explain it. So like we were going through distributors, and then distributors would sell to shops, and then they'd sell through a lot of online retailers as well. Mm-hmm. What started to happen though is mainly on the like Amazon side is, we started to have all these weird things starting to happen like this, or like customers receiving a dropper with no lever kit in the box. And I'm like, well, I know I didn't send it out that way. So something happened. Right. So we just had some weird stuff happening. And so we wanted to really kind of tighten up our sales channels so that we knew if there was an issue, like it was likely on us. Like, right. I'd much rather something stupid happen. I want to fess up to it and I want to fix it.
Yeah, totally.
So that was a big part of it. So anyway, so by doing that, now we sell direct to shops, we sell direct to customers, we sell through a select, like we sell through Jensen, Worldwide Cyclery, Backcountry Competitive Cyclist, a few of those direct, and these are guys that we trust, and I know.
So like on Amazon, is it like you're the person?
Amazon, it is us for the most part right now. There's still a few brands that had some inventory, like some different sellers, but because of that, like we're getting there's just aren't issues anymore, which is cool.
Is it better for people like for you? Is it better for you if
I'd rather people buy through our shop? Yeah, if you go through PNWComponents.com, that's much better for us because
Amazon's probably taking a cut of whatever you're selling through there. Right?
Yeah, they take a fat cut, and then they charge you as much as they can. So yeah, right. There's and they can because they have the demand, and there's,
right.
I forget how many, like 100 million people go to Amazon every month or something. So I mean the
I'm
the
sure
views are there. So I can't avoid Amazon, and if like a lot of brands have basically said like, well, we're okay with our products being sold on there, but we're not going to manage it. We're going to have our distributor or whoever do it. But for me, I kind of want control over that relationship because it's such a big channel. Things can get sideways real quick, and we want to at least be part of that and know what's going on.
I mean, I think that speaks to who you guys are and that you actually are really concerned about your customers. And I can totally relate with what you're saying. And I think that it sounds like the intent is good, not like I want to micromanage the shit out of everything. It's like, hey, I want to make sure that my people are getting taken care of.
No, it is. I mean, this is easy to say, but it is 100% because of customers. Like I don't want our name out there looking bad because of something stupid that I had nothing to do with. Like that's super frustrating. So it's to ensure that the product quality is good. You're getting the newest product. You're not getting super old stuff that happened to be on someone's shelf or whatever. So anyway, that's Amazon.
Is there any kind of shelf life to that stuff? Like do like the seals start to lose some like elasticity or anything like that if it's sitting around too long? Or
I mean, inherently anything made out of silicone or rubber or plastic, whatever, like sure, but I mean we're talking like decades. So the biggest one for us, like we provide a 3-year warranty, but biggest one for us is we just want to make sure people have the newest iteration. Like if we know that we made a product improvement, we want to make sure what we're selling is the newest stuff, so that we're not going through this cycle of like something we knew about and then someone's frustrated and we're like, well, if you bought from us, you're going to get the newest stuff, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of how that one works.
How does it work if somebody is out of the warranty period and they're like have some kind of problem? Will you guys still service it and then just charge it, or how does that work? I don't know.
I don't want to be too loose-lipped. Like I want to take care of people. I'm not going to screw anyone over. Like I usually give them the benefit of the doubt. And I mean, and to be honest, we haven't had anyone, like we just hit 3 years. So no one's really in that window. There's a few that'll start coming up, but outside of that, like we will be providing our service parts for dirt cheap. I mean, I'm not trying to, I don't want that to be a profit center. There's a lot of brands that make a ton of money off of warranty. or service parts. That doesn't sit well with me, and maybe I'll learn my lesson, and that's a stupid idea, but I don't want to run things that way.
No, I mean, I think that it makes sense. Like I was talking about that Cannondale earlier, and there's some things that, like, if you wanted to get it serviced, that it had to go back to like Cannondale for, and what they charged you for it was just ludicrous. And there's a guy on the East Coast that is basically his whole business is servicing them outside of Cannondale. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's who I ended up using, because it was like half the price. I could ship it to this dude in New York City and get it back in like a week, or New York, right? New York State somewhere, get it back in like a week, or I could send it to Cannondale through a shop and get it back in like 6 weeks. You know what I mean? It's like, you can pay twice as much.
I'm sure there's reasons why it's set up that way, but man, to me personally, that I don't know, that feels like that could be like, if there's just someone making money off of just servicing your stuff, I don't know. I just feel like that could be done better. But what do I know? I don't know. I'm not running a company that size, so I have no idea. But I'd like to think that we can improve that for sure.
So you guys, are you thinking about doing anything other than droppers? So right now you got droppers, you got stems, we
got handlebars. So we have a grip that we're working on that's almost done. We have a pedal that's awesome. I'm really excited about the pedal, actually. So that's getting wrapped up here soon. We should have prototypes in like probably I'd hope a minimum of, or within a month. I'd hope to have those here, so then we can start testing them and see what's up. Outside of that, we're looking to keep expanding. I mean, droppers, there's a lot more ground to cover there. There's big challenges on like, how do we reduce stack height so that you can have a longer travel dropper into, a smaller size frame. So that's more like, I'd call that like iterative. And there's obviously,
because you were saying on that interview that you did with Gene, that you would love to have a 200, but it just doesn't fit in a lot of bikes.
We have a 200 and it doesn't fit in a lot of bikes. So it's like,
but you're not selling it, right? That's something you just like prototyped or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, the design's done, factories tested it. I mean, it's ready to go. And it's 4 months out if we want to order that. But I think I'll bring some in, because like it keeps coming up. And like I can't ride one on my bike. I can only run a 150 and I'm 6'2". So that kind of worries me, but there are more and more bikes that just have the straight seat tube. You can slam the thing in there. There's no issues. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, my Bronson, it would fit for sure.
Santa Cruz is good about that. Yeah, they got the straight.
There's no doubt about it. Wouldn't. Yeah. And then I'm 6'2" as well, but I ride a smaller frame. I like to have because when I was younger, I was into BMX, and I think that I still ride. Like if you were to measure me, everybody would say, "Hey, you should be on an extra large bike." Yep. And I ride a large just because I like that. Like, I feel like it's like a little bit more nimble, and I just like the way it feels better. And it's a trade-off, I mean, you probably, because it's a smaller frame, maybe the front wheel pull up easier on some climbing or something like that, because my seat's like super high, you know what I mean? So like that some of the like body mechanics of maybe how I'm riding it, you know what I mean?
I'm totally in the same boat, man. I grew up racing BMX, dirt jumping. I always rode tiny bikes. So like, I'm on a size large. I've got an Evil following MB. Oh, right on. But I think I'm pretty sure, according to their measurements, I should be on an extra large. But I don't know. I love the large. It totally fits me fine, and I'm fine sacrificing, like you said, kind of looping out here and there on steeper stuff or whatever. But that's fine, like, because it's it's rad coming down. So
right.
But the 200. So we're looking to get into that, and then we want to continue going down the line of like any touch point on the bike, anything that you're going to interact with on the bike that's not a frame or a shock or a fork. We're going to get involved with. Also looking into, we have some ideas with actually some like soft goods. So, like jackets and things like that I think we could do well. And that's kind of getting us into the uncharted territory. Like I haven't made a jacket, but I do know of some like people who are very experienced in it that can help me out, that I've worked with in the past and stuff. So that one's less risky as like going totally head in on something random. But
exciting, man.
No, we're stoked. And really what needs to happen is like, we just need to continue innovating and bringing like unique perspective into components. but then deliver them at reasonable prices. Because what I don't want to get into is becoming more and more and more just like elitist, kind of leaving people out of the equation, just purely because we can. Because I mean, if there's something new, you inherently can charge more for it than because no one else has that. But I don't want to get into that game. Like Emily and I set out to create things people want and create a community around the brand of riders that are just wanting to have fun on the bike, and they don't care about, racing or whatever it may be. Like obviously our stuff can handle racing, but we don't want this like total elitist, like bro culture of like, oh, well, if you're not racing or you're not training or if you're not riding with this group of people, like you suck. Like that's crazy. We don't
there's different groups of people out there riding bike. And I think you and I were talking about this before we went live. And, I think that, the people that I tend to ride with the most are the ones that are just like super chill about everything.
Yep.
Some of the guys that I have in my riding, group are like just amazing freaking riders. You know what I mean? But they're also like, yeah, dude, I don't care. You got a flat. I'm going to lay down, take a nap. Like, I don't fucking care. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. They're like, oh yeah, they can probably climb up to the top, ride back down and climb back up again before I get up. And they're still just, they're just cool about it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, hey, we're all here to ride bikes and have fun. And I think that's part of, why I started my channel, is I wanted people to see that, like, it doesn't all have to be that like penny pinching or like weight weenie or friggin' like you got to be like able to do a 2-mile manual. I don't know. You know what I mean? Yep. Like there's a lot of people out there that are just like riding bikes, man. No,
I mean, it was crazy actually moving up here. The level of riding is insane. Being here in the Seattle area, but there are so many riders that could easily go out and race, pro enduro and kick ass at it, but they don't value that. They're like, yeah, no, racing's cool, but like, I don't know, I work full time and I like riding and like I take it serious, but I'm not going to like go out of my way or anything like that. And they're the most modest people you've ever ridden with, and they shred. Like, it's incredible. So like that, I mean, that's what I'm all about. Like, just have fun. If you're good, cool, but you don't have to brag about it or make anyone else feel bad about it. Cause that's part that really pisses me off is like, I'm sure you see it all the time. You're talking about, earlier, like approaching different brands and they don't want to even talk to you. Like, that's just, there's no reason for that, because it's going to leave a huge swath of the potential riders out of it because they feel left out. Like, if I were to go try to ski or snowboard, I suck. And because of that, like, I don't even really want to get involved, because I know it's to get into like the people or into the in crowd there, like you have to be good or whatever. So that's, biking has a really bad reputation of that. I talked to a lot of my friends and they're like, no, I don't want to get into that. I've heard this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, unfortunately, it's kind of true. Like, it sucks. Yeah. So we're doing our best to kind of not.
I feel like mountain biking is like definitely, I think we're a little bit of a holdout, the best of the bikers, at least from the perspective that I have, where like a lot of people are just chill and laid back and they care about the freaking environment and they like, want to go do some like advocacy work or something like that, where you don't necessarily see groups like maybe road biker groups going out and trying to do some kind of maintenance to help, their sport that way. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. No, I completely agree, man. It's,
and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a big road biker. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, with road, no. I mean, road, I have no idea. I actually don't. I don't ride road bikes, so I don't really know. But I notice it just within mountain bikes. Like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of that kind of in crowd stuff going on. That's, I don't know. It's uncalled for.
I definitely feel like I feel like there's a lot of people that are in the right mindset with bikes, and like, I can say like. I don't see very many like trail days set up by the equestrians, and you got groups where in some parts of the country where mountain bikers have like revitalized a trail system or built one and then have it end up taken away from them. And it's, by these other groups. And it just blows my mind. It just completely blows my mind.
I think we do have to work harder at that. Cause there is definitely a negative stigma going back to like the 90s. Of like what a mountain biker is. And if you're not in the know, you don't know that that's changed or that the perception's changed, at least. Like, So yeah, I think that we have to go out of our way to really be super, like ultra courteous on the trail. Like if there's a horse, I just get off the trail and I don't even want to with it. You know, I'm just not worth getting into it with them. So
it's just weird, you know. It's like you never know what that person wants. Because I've always been like, when I grew up like back east, and I started riding mountain bikes like in the 90s, you know, and you know, the deal was always just stop. You know what I mean? And let them go by and then freaking go on your way or whatever. And I've stopped and then had like somebody on a horse yell at me before. Like,
you're like, get away.
Yeah, you know, and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do, man? You know, that thing is huge that you're sitting on, dude. I'm just a guy, you know?
Yeah. No, it's it kind of, I don't know. It's I do have a bit of like, I understand the other side of it. So like my parents are way involved. Like they get wild horses and they train them and go ride them. So like they're totally hardcore in that way. So like I understand the challenges of if you don't have a horse that has been what's the word? I don't know, like desensitized to what a bike is.
Yeah.
They'll get nervous and they'll kind of freak out. And then if the rider is also nervous, the horse can sense that. They can actually feel that you're freaked out. And then they're like, oh God, what's going on? You know, they're prey animals, man. They're getting eaten out there. So these aren't like dogs that are just like chill and have confidence. Like they have no idea what's going on, a horse at least. So I get the anxiety behind it, but at the same time, there's totally like us against them stuff going on. And I don't
understand why
help any of us.
Like, even with the hikers and the bikers and everybody, like, to me, I just feel like everybody should be like, you all want to go outside. What's the fucking problem here? Let everybody go outside and have fun. You know?
The thing that cracks me up is the amount of time that we're passing each other is literally seconds, but we both go back and we dwell over these things for hours. We're like, fucking horses or freaking hikers, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, just go by. It's over. Like if someone says something catty to you, who cares, dude? Just go by them. It doesn't matter. You know, like they're going to forget about it. You're going to forget about it. I don't know. It's weird, man.
Like, I just don't understand why people just like, this sounds so cliche. Like, why can't people just can't get along? Because like there's some like trail systems. Okay, so you were down in the Bay Area. Annandale, great example where it's a multi-use park. There's horses, there's hikers, there's bikers. Because that's like the only thing like right in that area, it's fucking packed all the time with all those people. And I remember when I rode there thinking, this is awesome. Like everybody's just freaking outside having a good time. You stop or you don't stop or whatever it is. Like everybody's doing this together. Why can't it be like this everywhere? Like I don't understand, you know?
Yep. I really, I don't know. It's got me scratching my head. It's crazy. It's crazy. I really wish we could all figure it out, because what ends up happening is trails start to get closed and then we all lose out on it. For the most part. So it's a bummer, man.
Yeah, and even the thing that blows my mind even more is like this new thing going on in the mountain bike industry is like shit on e-bikes. And it's like, so they're like, we're done. We want to finish being like pissed off at all these other people. We're gonna be pissed off at ourselves now. You know, it's like, oh my God, man, just friggin' A, let people ride bikes, let people walk, let people ride horses, whatever the hell they want to do. Let's just go out and do it together, have a good time, you know?
I mean, with e-bikes, like, I don't know. I get the, like, the argument that I hear most, well, the two arguments I hear most often are like, you haven't earned it, so you shouldn't be up here. Like, you didn't do the big climb with full effort that I did, so blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, whatever. But the other one is that they may or may not break down the trails quicker because there's more torque. That one's yet to be proven. I have no idea. But the thing for me,
man, is I know guys that are way faster than me, and even if I was on a freaking e-bike, I would still be going as fast as them. So that's the part where I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not a fucking scientist, but I can tell you that there's definitely some dudes laying some torque down, you know?
No, totally. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. The cool thing about them for me is like my parents could get on one and go into areas that they'd never be able to get to before and see really cool stuff. And then they'd advocate for it because they tell their friends like how awesome it is back there. If it ever came to a situation where land needed to be protected, so we have access to trails, so it's not getting, mined or whatever, like the more people that have access to that stuff to me is a good thing, because if no one gives a shit about these very far out places that some of us like to ride, they're going to get taken away. It's going to get, logged, or it's going to, in my hometown of Napa, we just had a big piece of a awesome trail network called Skyline Park, got turned into gravel. Like it's a gravel mine now. So that sucks. But if we had more people up there, they would be advocating and signing their petition and all this stuff. Right. So if an e-bike helps with that, I don't care. That's great. Like,
I didn't know that happened at Skyline.
Not all
I
Skyline.
They had a bunch of damage there from the fire a couple years ago.
So Skyline as a whole,
yeah.
I'm talking. There's one corner of the park. I think it was called Upper Skyline Trail and Upper Buckeye. Those are gone. Like those now are part of SIAR. SIAR is like a big mining group that's next door. In their defense, like, you know, they had some sort of agreement where basically Skyline, I think, was leasing it. So, but still, there was a big protest, and if more people had gotten involved, it wouldn't have happened. So, if more people want to get on an e-bike and go up there and enjoy it, like, and that helps protect it, that's great.
Right. So the other day I was watching a video from Seth Bike Hacks, and he was talking about one of his favorite things is this dropper that he has that's wireless. You guys thinking about doing that?
No, not at this point. I personally don't see the huge benefit to a rider, right? Like, it's cool, super cool. But I mean,
for him, what he was saying was that it was really handy because then he could just swap it in between bikes really easily, you know? So it was just like, oh, popping in here, popping in there, you know?
But like, what % of riders have tons of bikes they want to swap droppers between? You know what I mean? Like,
it's a niche.
That's very niche. That's very niche. And I think that niche rider, clearly they got some money and they probably will have the money to buy a fancy ass dropper that does that. So like, I think it's cool. Like, from a technology standpoint, that's incredible what they figured out. Like, they have a mechanism that can go up and down. Like, that's pretty cool. But at this point, we're not looking into it. Once the demand is there and we start getting questions about it, like, I'm totally open to it. I'm not seeing the value quite yet.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with the way it works myself, and I just figure I wanted to ask the question, right?
Totally, man. No, it's definitely interesting. It's wild.
So what kind of riding do you like to do?
I like getting pretty rowdy. I love jumps. I love downhill. I think up here we're super spoiled. There's a lot of that around. So like this morning we went out on a group ride with a local shop called the Polka Dot Jersey is the shop. Awesome group. They're shredding. So like we were just bombing steep, loamy stuff. We got a bunch of rain. And the cool thing with this particular area we rode is the more rain it gets, the more grippy and tacky it gets. Like there's not really mud. It's crazy. We were just riding around there, and I don't know, that I prefer that stuff. I love like high speed corners, steep stuff, jumps, whatever it may be, is kind of my style. I've gotten more into, well, you don't really have a choice around here. You have to do pretty big climbs. A few thousand feet per ride. So that's just kind of how it is. But because of that, I've gotten in a little better shape so I can do bigger rides, which is good. So
then when you lived in the Bay Area, you feel like they're bigger climbs than they are down here?
I mean, it depends on what you're looking for, but on average, I mean, we've got basically you're in the Cascade Mountains, which are somewhat equivalent to like, you know, the Sierras. They're pretty big mountains. So I mean, the cool thing here though is like you're getting to that like high alpine much sooner just because of our longitude, latitude, whatever it is, whatever the one that goes up. So the more north you are, the lower timberline is going to be, and obviously the climate is way colder and wetter here. So you know, like getting up to a 4,000 foot peak is from sea level. Like that's a big ride, but that's also like full on like backcountry mountain environment. And for you guys, like that's like where Auburn is. So I mean, that's kind of the foothills. So it's it's different. It's totally different.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. I know when I rode I've ridden in Oregon a handful of times, and I've ridden in like southern Washington, so basically just like on the other side of the river from Portland, you know.
Like Vancouver area.
Like out towards like Mount St. Helens, kind of stuff like that. And it's definitely, I know one thing that I noticed, that it seemed to me that the trail builders there like just charge straight up a hill more than like in California. It seemed like they would do a little more work on the switchbacks getting up, where I was like, man, these guys like it steep up here, man. Because I remember at the time, like the first time I went up there, I was in like super good shape and was riding super strong down here. And I got up there and it was like, these dudes I was riding with, they were like freaking, all right, dude, you coming or what? You know?
Like, whoa, what the hell? Yeah, it's we're super, super spoiled. We have Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance, and they're like animals. They're building so many trails. It's crazy. It
seems like the attitude up there is a lot different. Like,
Yeah.
like up there, I know like the group of guys that I had met, just people from like MTBR is what I would do back then. It's just like, put a message out on the Oregon board and be like, hey, I'm going to be in Portland. Somebody want to show me around? Met a bunch of people like that. Nice. And they'd be like, oh yeah, I rode out yesterday with the chainsaw, did some trail work, blah, 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 and it's like no big fucking deal. And it's like down here, it's like, if you wanted to go do some trail work in Auburn, you're going to be like tied up in like some paperwork for 2 years,
I think that's the difference. I mean, everyone I know builds up here. Like it's crazy. And that's like you'll go out on, for instance, we have this trail called Poppin' Tops at this place called Raging River, and it'll get thrashed, like breaking bumps, ruts, whatever, just because of, rain or whatever it may be, or peak summer conditions. And you come back the next weekend and it's perfectly repaired again. It's just like,
right.
What the hell? So there's that. But the bigger part is what you mentioned. The Department of Natural Resources up here, who manages a lot of the land, or at least gives, the ability to build, they're very willing to make that happen. And from what I remember in California, it was everything I built got torn down. It was just like, nope, can't have that. Or like, oh, you build dirt jump. Nope, torn down. Like here we have a massive dirt jump park right down the street from my house in a like soccer complex. And they've been there for like 20 years and no one's torn them down. I'm like, dude, that would have been gone in a second if that were back home. So I think for whatever reason, just the mindset of just how litigious people tend to be is different here. If like a kid goes and gets hurt, unfortunately, that's part of biking.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the parents' first reaction is, well, I'm going to sue the city because they allowed this to be here. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have been riding that level of jump, or well, maybe you'll learn next time.
Or at the end of the day, it's an accident. Like, I don't understand why like
stuff happens, man.
About what an accident is. Like, it's an accident.
I remember as a kid, like we had a little, like some land where we used to build jumps, and it was at my parents' place, and they were terrified to let me have friends over because they're like, we need a waiver sign. Like they actually got a waiver done up so that like friends of mine's parents would sign it just so they knew what was going on. And it terrified me to the point where I was like, well, I don't even want to have people over here anymore. Like this is sketchy. And they weren't wrong for being freaked out about it, because that stuff happens all the time. And up here, I've never heard of it. Like it just doesn't happen, which is pretty cool. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I think I don't know what's causing it, because we're not that far from you guys. Like we're one state up. So it's but yeah, it is definitely a different mindset of the first reaction isn't to go sue, which is good.
Yeah, it's definitely very different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting how things change around, even just around the country in one place to another,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some like Sedona, for example. I mean, that's all like rogue trail builders that built that whole freaking thing.
Yeah, and they let it happen. Like the city or the state is like, cool, no problem.
Right. And now what do they have? They have a freaking huge industry of people coming there and like spending money and all like, pumping dollars into their state because of something that was like, quote unquote done illegally. You know what I mean? But I think it's all about the approach. It's really about the approach.
It is, and seeing the advantage, right? Because I think, at least when I was growing up, like BMX was viewed as like kind of a sort of a lowbrow thing to do. Like we got a lot of comments of like, we had this old abandoned lot that we had some jumps in, and one of the neighbors called the cops on us and was like saying pretty derogatory things, like we were, low class kids riding, doing bikes, because that's what they that's what low class kids would be doing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, come on, are you serious right now? Like we're riding our bikes. At least we're not out doing drugs. Here. But jumps got torn down anyway. So it's tough, man. It's you kind of can't win with bikes.
Yeah, I just remember riding all over the place. They would be like, hey, there's a jump here that jumps over this alleyway, and there's a jump here that, two of your buddies got to stand out on the street and tell you that there's no cars coming. You can hit that one. Like, we would just like ride around town doing that. And it's like, on one hand, yes, that, that was definitely us being productive with ourselves. But, come like recycling day when we did kickouts on every fucking trash can down the road, that probably wasn't a great idea, like great for the community. But it is what it is. Your kids, so I think that anything getting kids outside nowadays is freaking a million times better than the other opportunities at this point.
It's a challenge, man. I know that when I was, I don't know if I believe the trend is still going kind of in the same direction, but I was responsible for the P series bikes, so like P3 that specialized, the P slope, and then, the BMX bikes and stuff. Just the amount of kids riding, wanting bikes as a present or having any interest was just like, and we started doing some research, and this isn't unique to bikes at all, but more and more kids just aren't going outside. Like they'd rather chill on the couch and game on their phone or text their buddies or whatever.
I'll tell you one that really like kind of blew me away was whenever like Guitar Hero came out. Yep. And these people would be like getting all into it, and they're like playing all these songs, and they're spending all this time doing it and getting, the other instruments to play. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just learn how to fucking play guitar? Like
you could be so sick at guitar with all the time you're putting in.
Right. Like you actually could be playing that AC/DC song instead of playing a game about playing the song,
Like, sorry, dude, in a few years here, when you go to college and you're at some like party and there's an acoustic guitar,
right?
You're not going to know what the fuck to do because you've just been pressing buttons.
So good luck getting laid with Guitar Hero, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, carry the guitar around to the bar. Right? It's like, oh, cool, dude. How many buttons can you press? Yeah.
Right. So back to PNW Components.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's any like mistakes that you feel like you've made over the last couple of years that if you could turn back, you would wish that you could change?
We haven't done the I'm still giving myself plenty of time to do this. We haven't done like the massively bad mistakes of like, oh man,
we screwed that up.
Yeah, totally screwed that, and boom. But yeah, I mean, I screw up all the time. I mean, that's how you learn. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's some trends that we should have jumped on sooner. Like I was talking about the stack height, like the fact that 1UP came out and had like the drops C clamp and the lower actuator, like should have jumped on that one sooner. The longer travel stuff, I think we're in a good position with, and we'll bring those in. The dropper lever should have jumped on that way sooner. But I'm really happy with the product we have, but it would have been great if we had that months or, even a year ago. So yeah, there's a lot of, smaller things like that. In terms of like our growth strategy, I'm really happy with where we're at actually. Like we're growing very quickly. We're getting the right partners and all of that. I think our marketing efforts can be bumped up there, and that's something we have a plan for going next.
So how many people is PNW at this point?
Yeah, so we've got I guess there's 5 of us right now, which is cool. So
if I remember correctly on your website, like almost all you guys came from like different bike company, kind of like bike industry.
Yeah. It's crazy. We're totally spread out. And the way that I've wanted to kind of structure the company that helps us, it's a quality of life thing. It's a productivity thing. I've worked in ultra corporate environments where it's just endless meetings and people coming by your desk just to chit chat and waste your time. Right. So like you may be at the desk from 8 to 5 or 8 to 7, whatever, but you're not actually working that whole time. And for me, that's crazy. Like you should be, you're going to get your best work done when you're happy and you're feeling motivated and good about what you're doing. And you have time. You got to take breaks. Like this mentality of like I saw a quote from Elon Musk yesterday, like the only way to change the world and do big things is to work 80-hour weeks. And it's like, there's so much research that literally is not possible. Like you cannot concentrate on one thing for 80 hours in 1 week. You may be, like Emily and I are working every single day, all day long. I mean, our minds are on things. We're constantly chatting about things, but me at the computer typing is not 80 hours a week.
Right.
So what I wanted to do is, pass that into the company as well. So like if people want to work remote, great, do it. Like if you want to sit on your couch and work and you're getting tons done, and then you want to go out and ride or go hang out with your family, good, do it. I don't care. Like
I think you'll see more and more companies go in that direction over time.
Well, and you mentioned, you had worked in the tech industry. I basically just stole the idea from that. I mean, there's lots of very successful companies doing it this way. And so I kind of studied how they did it, read a lot of books, read tons of, on blogs, and actually called and spoke to a lot of people like, how are you ensuring that work is getting done? People are feeling good about their work.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have productivity. Like that's what like it tells you everything. So it's like, I've had times in my IT career where people are like, hey, let's block Facebook because the employees shouldn't be fucking wasting their time on there. And I'm like, dude, that's not an IT issue. Yeah, we could solve it by an IT issue, but that's still not fixing the problem of somebody wants to fucking not work. That's a management issue.
That's a cultural that's a cultural issue, right? They're feeling disengaged with their job to the point where they're like, I don't want to be here, and I'm going to go on. And well, here's the deal: if you want to go on Facebook and get your mind off of work for a few minutes, who cares? Like, good, do that. Like, I've done that for sure.
I feel like if you have the opportunity to just kind of like make your way through your day at how you feel comfortable with it, that you can be way more productive. You know what I mean? And if it's you, like, for instance, I work in tech. So like, I have Messenger up. I'm bullshitting with friends and like, all day long. But you take that away from me, I'm going to be a shit show because like, that's like what keeps me going. You know what I mean? Like, and I have that ADD personality where if I don't have distractions constantly, I'm fucking screwed.
It's and this all trickles back to like our school system, right? Like you're told like sit there and you have to concentrate and pay attention to what the teacher's saying, and that's how. If you don't learn that way, like you're an idiot. And I got that. Oh my God, I got that so much as a kid because I was all over the place. I was like a wild kid. Doesn't mean I'm stupid. I just didn't fit into that environment, and I got in a lot of trouble because of it constantly. So, and that trickles into the workforce, right? It's more convenient for a large organization to keep your employees in one spot and know that they're not looking at Facebook, because then you don't have to worry about managing them, right? So that's one way of doing it. But I know from personal experience, and from personal experience, that's not how people work. It's very rare. There are people that can do it, but it's very rare to find them where they can literally focus an entire day and then go home and then they don't think about work. Like for me, I'd rather wrap it into my routine. Like today's Sunday. I went out and rode in the morning and then I worked. And then after we're done with this, I'm going to go work till bedtime. But
my lady works for at home, and she, basically is kind of running her own gig, so to speak. And, I mean, that's how she does. She's like, get up, make breakfast, work on this for a little bit, be on that conference call, go to the gym, work on this for a little bit, work on that for a little bit. Oh, go by the grocery store. You know what I mean? And it's like, she's fucking productive as hell, man. And I look at that and I'm like envious as hell. On the other hand, she doesn't have the people to talk to all the time, and that is a big part. No, that is totally a big piece of it is like, it is good to interact with folks. So, I mean, basically what we do is like, again, like, here's what you need to be working on. And as long as it's getting done on time and you're doing a good job and you're stoked, great. I don't care what you do, man. You can be anywhere in the world. I don't care. So I mean, we have like our designer and engineer. He's in Argentina. He used to do design for freaking Lamborghini. Like the dude's super dialed. Yeah, he's awesome. So we're very fortunate to have him. I wouldn't be able to work with him if we had an office and he wasn't willing to leave Argentina, right? So I mean, that's dumb for me. We have, especially with the way the world's connected nowadays. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why not to get the best people you can, no matter where they're at?
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, we've got a guy who helps with like kind of the back end of setting up our Facebook and social media stuff. He's in the UK, and then we've got another engineer who helps us. He's based in. He's from Portland, but he's in Taiwan, right? So I mean, there you go. Wouldn't be able to work with him if we had to have everyone here. So,
so do you have to go over to Taiwan a lot, or do you have like that guy that's over there kind of like handle that for you, or?
Depends on the project. So yeah, like Loam Lever, that's him. So I don't go there for that one. If we, like Emily and I were there, like I said, I can't remember. I think it was early October. We went over there, which was great. So it's really important to check in with all these different vendors you're working with and different factories. And then also it's good just to meet new, kick up new projects, see what's going on. I mean, it's crazy how much you can learn just by going over there and talking to people of like, well, what are the OEM, what's hot in OEM right now? Cause the bike brands are developing basically 2 years ahead.
Right.
So if you kind of hear some rumors of like, oh, I think so-and-so might be going with this new standard or this diameter, like then I can get ahead of it. So that wouldn't happen unless I'm there. So that
makes sense. I would never really thought about that. Like, hey, let's say Specialized decides to use a different size seat tube all of a sudden. And if you don't have that that's like turns into the biggest selling bike, like you're kind of screwed then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. How do you deal with like quality control and stuff like that?
So quality control can be a number of ways. So depending on the factory. So like with our dropper posts, these guys are dialed. I trust their QC team. For our new pedal project, I don't know this factory quite as well. So I've hired a company who will just be doing QC. And what's nice about that is it's been quality checked by the factory. And then I get a second set of eyes that is completely unbiased. Like they work for us.
Right.
And they have no incentive to tell us otherwise that there's something wrong. Right. So that's how I like to handle that type of situation. It just totally depends.
Yeah.
It's project dependent. It's factory dependent, but
it has to be really exciting. Just like making new things, you know?
Oh my God.
Is that probably like your favorite part or?
It is, man. I'm definitely a product guy. You know, that's my background is developing stuff, and I get super excited about it. I remember developing bikes. Like I'd be able to like, you know, think about it. You're building your own bike, right?
Right.
It's awesome. So that was what my job was. You know, there's many more factors into it, but at the end of the day, you're basically speccing out a bike part for part. And so what got me so pumped was like come back from Taiwan with like all the new products that are available, and maybe there's some new project I kicked off. And coming together and figuring out that, oh, we can actually afford to put like a XTR derailleur on a $2,000 hardtail. Like I would lose my shit. Like that's the best feeling ever. So yeah, no,
well, it's gonna be cool then, like seeing it, like seeing things like something tangible. You're like, let's just say you worked on the Bronson, right? On building that. And then that bike being like, you know, just everybody's talking about it. And it's just, you know, like people are super amped about it. And it's like, dude, I did that. Like that's awesome. You know,
it is. It's a hard. I think there's a perception that like we're all just kind of sitting around drinking beer and dicking off, but like it's really hard work, man. Because I mean, it's big business, right? There's millions and millions and millions of dollars on the line. So like a miscalculation or any sort of screw up on your part, that comes back on you, and you can lose your job over it. So and let alone like if you develop something and you get a little too aggressive and maybe you have a recall where someone could be injured.
Yeah,
that's on you, man. Like, I'm sorry, that's a horrible feeling. So yeah, it's high pressure, but yeah, like you said, having something tangible where you can say, like, we designed this and someone's happy about it, that is a really good feeling for sure.
Yeah, I know if I was in your shoes, I would be trying to make all kinds of shit too. I'd be like, I want to do a seat post, and then I want to do this part, and then I want to do this part, just because I just like making shit, you know. So it'd be like,
no, dude, it's the same way.
Stuff, you know.
It's totally the same way. And like, you know, you start going out, you get with your buddies, and then you start like have some beers and start thinking about all these things like, oh, well, what if you could do this? Then, you know, that's how a lot of good projects kind of start is that process. But then, you know, there's a little more science to it just in terms of like, is there a market for it and how would this work and all that? But yeah, it's fun, dude. It's definitely fun.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you have a meeting with your guys coming up here shortly. So I want to give you some time to get into them. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me today, and everybody that got to listen to it online. Hopefully they all hit the thumbs up button. We're going to remind them about it right now, just in case they didn't. So
thank you guys.
if you guys didn't hit the thumbs up button yet, go ahead and hit it now. Also, if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. It only takes a second, and then you're done. And then you don't have to worry about it ever again. Every time you hear me say this, you'll be like, oh, I already did that. So boom, got something checked off your list for the day. Anything you want to say about PNW before we wrap it up, man?
No, I mean, if you guys, if we're new to you, please check us out. Like I said, I personally respond to, you know, all of our customer service inquiries that come in. So if you have questions or you want to grill us on something, please, like that's really what makes us better. And I think that is one thing that sets us apart is you are getting a direct line to, you know, to the company. Really, there's no layers of fat to get through. So, no, we're really excited for next year. We've got a whole new team that we just sponsored, so we can't announce who those are yet, but we got some really cool stuff coming out. And Robert, thank you for having us on, man. This is awesome.
I'm super excited to see all your stuff that you have coming out, and I'll tell you. Not blowing smoke up your ass. Like I have not heard anybody say anything negative about your stuff yet. And everybody that I've talked to is just like, dude, that shit's solid. Like, you know, and going through the install yesterday, I wanted to do that at least, you know, before I had a chance to talk to you. And that thing was super slick. It was easy to do. everything that I looked at, like packaging wise, was great. And I'm super happy to have the opportunity to sit here and chat with you, because I feel like you're doing good stuff, and hopefully, you know, more people will be able to. Hopefully, I'll be able to influence some more people to help you out, because I just think what you're doing is righteous, man. So
no, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That's that kind of makes all this worth it. You know, it's tough, but no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Right on. Well, all you guys out there, you guys know the deal. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one, bitches.